How we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here, welcome back to another video. So we've been playing around on the PTR today and we've been testing out the new follower, the new sort of AI follower dungeons. This is on the patch 10.2.5 PTR that got announced last night. The patch is going to be called Seeds of Renewal, and we got a little bit of a heads up, a little bit of a Blizzard article going over some of the main features of this. We were testing this on the stream, and the one we were testing out for the most part, and what I wanted to talk about for a few minutes in this video today, is the Dragonflight follower dungeons. I'll leave a link to this article in the description down below if you want to have a read through it in detail yourself, because there's a bunch of cool stuff coming in the new new patch. But the follower dungeons are quite a cool little addition. I'm quite excited about these, and we tested some of them out and they look pretty good. You can tank, heal or DPS alongside NPC non-playing character companions that will join you on your dungeon adventures. They will be available for all 8 normal Dragonflight dungeons and will scale from 1 to 4 players. So you and a couple of buddies could, if you can't quite fill that entire party, choose to do a follower dungeon and dive in and have those remaining slots filled by some NPCs. Or the thing that I really think Blizzard should focus on more so than anything else is this next bit. The companions will allow players to learn about Dragonflight dungeons at their own pace and provide the freedom to experiment and customize their party makeup. This is, for me, the big selling point of this feature. I think this allows people an entry into an environment to test out things without the stress of potentially annoying others, right? You can stand at a target dummy and you can pew away at a target dummy all you like to try and figure out your DPS rotation, but it's incredibly difficult to practice both tanking or healing without doing it. Unless you're actually out there doing it, it can be quite a daunting process for some players, especially new players, to learn this stuff. And this is where I think the advantage of these follower dungeons could be really strong. If you want to pick up a new class, if you want to pick up a new spec, heck, you just want to try out some new talents or abilities, you can go and do a normal dungeon, and you know, it's a safe environment for you to do so. It's a nice little test environment, and that's kind of what I really feel these follower dungeons should be. Now, I'll talk about some of the limitations of this in a minute and some of the pros and cons to it, but I think from a testing perspective, these could be really powerful. We had, way back in the day, things like proving grounds, which were a way that Blizzard implemented for you to be able to sort of go into a fake environment and test some of this stuff out. They even went as far as making proving grounds a requirement for you to have access to LFR, which was maybe a controversial decision back then. But this was all the way back in Mists of Pandaria, so most people probably don't even remember it. But if you're new to the game, this could be a very good way to get into playing some dungeons. Obviously, for the moment, we are going to see this with Dragonflight dungeons, which most of us are going to be very familiar with. But let's look at this from the perspective of a brand new expansion that's going to turn up at some point next year. If they're able to say, right, these are the brand new dungeons, go and have a bit of an explore of these dungeons at your leisure, it could be very, very good. Looking at this, we did do some testing today. You can't use this for leveling your characters from like 0 up to 60, but you can use this for leveling your characters from 60 to 70 because they're considered normal dungeons. And you can pick and choose whichever one. And one of the clear advantages of this, especially if you are DPS, instant queue times. No longer as a DPS are you going to have to potentially wait 5, 10, 15, maybe as much as 20 minutes in some cases to get into a dungeon. You can dive straight in. So let's do this and let's have a little bit of a look at what is presented to you when you get in. So you are joined by 4 friends. From what I can gather, these 4 friends are the same 4 friends you'll meet in all cases. You have a fire mage, you have a protection paladin, you have a resto druid, and you have a shaman as well. So you have a crew of people that will turn up and help you. And if I'm brutally honest, it's quite clever. The mage puts down a table for you, the tank will go do tank things, and the heal will heal you. You have one extra button, which you should just be able to see at the bottom of the screen here. This is called the Dungeon Assistant button. This is basically a toggle on or off. You can choose to lead the party and to choose to go at your own pace, or you can tell the tank to go and, you know, lead the dungeon. So if we were to select this now, toggle to allow the follower to lead the way, I will keep you safe, follow me, and off you go. This is all completely NPC. These are completely AI based, and you can follow along and you can pew pew. And the healer will heal you. And obviously, if you choose to play as the healer, shush, Alex Straza. If you choose to play as the healer, you can practice your healing. And the tank will only go so far. You can see the tank's even doing some clever things. It's line of sighting. The AI is actually remarkably clever. You can ninja pull. If we ninja pull, the tank will, you know, come and hopefully try and save you, try and take aggro back off you. It is entirely possible, by the way, if you are a little bit overzealous, to cause wipes still. You can see the tank's health is taking quite substantial damage here. It's not a completely 100%. You can still fail, let's put it that way. But the point is if I just stop here now, the tank will only go so far forward. She might pull the next pack, but she won't continue on through the dungeon in its entirety. So you can't totally AFK the dungeons. One thing we did notice as well is if you do just choose to AFK and not do anything, things like looting the mobs becomes a little bit problematic. The despawn time of mobs that you don't attack is really, really quick. They've clearly tuned it so that if you are just AFKing, you can't completely scumbag your way through the dungeon and get free loot. We'll talk about loot a little bit in a minute, actually, because that's a topic of conversation. I have a bit of a hot take on this, and I want to see what other people's view on it is. If you're watching during the stream, you'll know exactly what I mean. But as you can see, tank does tank things, healer does healer things, and it's all pretty smooth. If I click the button again to say that I want to lead the way, everybody waits for me. This I think is really good. You get a phone call, the baby wakes up. You need to take the dog for a pee. You want to take a bathroom break. You want to grab a drink. It's entirely flexible, and this is really, really cool. I think there are some vast advantages to this for a lot of players. Firstly, I think the queue time situation, especially if you play DPS, is going to be a massive quality of life advantage here. Huge quality of life to be able to just chain run dungeons if you so choose. This could be a really good way for you to level up your characters, at least, you know, in that last bracket of 60 to 70. If going and doing all of the world quests is just too much like hard work for you now, maybe spam some normal dungeons with NPCs. I think this is going to be very advantageous for people who are just learning a new spec. I, for example, have tried over the years to keep a lot of characters towards max level, but it means it could have been 12 months, 2 years since I've last played a class. If I was to say jump on my Warlock right now, although my Warlock is level 60, I would probably have absolutely no idea what I'm doing with the Warlock. I may not necessarily have played any more than one of the specs on the Warlock. It means I could switch things up and I could go into a dungeon and I could test and I could play around. And I'm not going to annoy anybody and I'm not going to put anybody else out due to low performance. And more importantly, that also applies to things like healing and tanking. It has been historically quite difficult for people to get into healing and get into tanking if you're new to the game, because there are strong expectations of you just instantly knowing what you're doing, and that's not always the case. You can see here, if I'm choosing to lead, whoever I tag and whoever I pull, tank goes in, tank does tank things, and we continue. We did test this as well, actually, for reference. We tested this with me being the tank. I took my paladin and went prot, tested what happens if I'm the case. And if you tell your party to lead the way, the mage actually does the pulling, which is quite interesting to me. The tank, under normal circumstances, will skip mobs that you don't really necessarily need to kill. If you tell the tank to lead the way, you'll see it skips this pack of mobs over here, off does the pull-in. Tank does tank things. It's quite clever. So overall, I think this should hopefully have given you a bit of an overview, and I hope some of you will understand some of the benefits of this. What I wanted to talk about, though, is I think this is maybe, in a way, a little bit too good. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, look at it from the perspective if you are leveling up and you have this as an option available to you, why would you choose to play with real people? And this is a bit of a moral dilemma for me in video games, of that I know, you know, to make sure that there's always players available for you to play with, AI companions can be very strong. But at the very same time, the advantages of playing with AI when it's this good is, why would you choose to play with real people given the option now? Now, my solution to this is that I am quite certain in saying that I do not believe that this mode, the AI follower dungeons, should have loot in them. This caused a bit of controversy on the stream. Some people agreed, some people didn't agree, so I'm interested to see what your opinions are on this. But my logic and my reasoning for this is that it would really solidify this as a training mode for people. It would strongly solidify that this is a good place for you to go to try out a new class, try out a new spec, maybe level your characters a little bit, but it's not going to fall into something that players progress through. It's not going to fall into the progression path per se. It will simply be a training exercise for players. Now, the obvious issue with that is that people very quickly came to the conclusion that then why would anybody do it? And I don't think this is a piece of content or a game mode that is strictly designed for everybody. I think that this is a good first initial step into either tanking, a good first step into healing, a good first step for you to allow yourself to explore a new dungeon without interrupting anybody else's playtime or experience. You are not clearly going to do this forever as your main primary focus of play, and what better way to emphasize this as being just a training mode than to say, right, well, you can walk through it with AI, but there's no loot to be had in here. If you want to actually progress properly, you are then going to need to learn in the AI mode and then maybe progress into normal dungeons with obviously the mindset eventually of joining a guild and having organized groups. If you just want to speed through the content, then getting 4 friends of yours that all know exactly what each other are doing and are all very experienced is the end goal for everybody, surely. But I think if they wanted to really excel this and showcase this to be a good place to test and to learn, removing loot, I think, is actually quite a smart way to sort of show the progression for this and to really solidify what this mode is for. As instant queues, no issue with other people doing other silly things, no issues with other players disconnecting, no issues with other players playing the wrong spec, no issues with other players being overly toxic. There's quite a few advantages of playing with AI, and I think they need to be careful about balancing that out, and I think the easiest way to balance that out is to maybe remove the loot from this mode. If you remove the loot from this mode, it also allows Blizzard, I think, this is still, you know, up for debate. I think it allows Blizzard to take this concept and spread it throughout the game a little bit more. I would love to see this kind of AI mode for LFR. Just recently, with the launch of patch 10.2, it's been a big point of contention for a lot of players that to kill Farak, to kill the final boss, to see the last cutscene for yourself of this patch, if you are not doing normal raiding, heroic raiding or mythic raiding, if you're relying on group finder-esque content, LFR is still vastly time gated. You could have a follower LFR mode which would allow you to still progress through the raid, still see the bosses, still get a feel for some of the mechanics involved, and even get some progression for your campaign quest line, see the final cinematic. And of course, if in that scenario they did it without any loot as well, there is clear advantages. You're progressing, you're seeing everything, but it would also say to players, hey, you've done this now. If you want to loot and you want to get the better gear and you want to progress even further, now you need to go find a bunch of people to go and do it with. And that's where I think this mode could really, fill a gap. It could help people learn. It could help people figure stuff out. It could help people test. And it should push people in the right direction with the overall goal of being that playing with other people is and should be the best approach. Now, obviously, some people may disagree with this, that if you're having fun, it doesn't matter if you're playing with real people or not. But an MMO, in my opinion, is at its strength when you are playing with other people, even if those other people are random people, but with the ultimate goal of finding a group of individuals that are like-minded enough, that play at similar times to you. The ideological design of slowly but surely progressing towards joining a guild and finding a bunch of people and hopefully progressing through harder content and killing bigger and badder bosses. I think this is a really, really good addition to the game. I'm excited to see if they can bring this to other aspects of the game. I'd be really cool to see if this makes it past 10.2.5 into 11.0, for example, and if it would be a way to see the new dungeons as in a more chill, relaxed approach. But I'll leave it there for today, boys and girls. Let me know your thoughts on this. It's available on the PTR for you to test, so by all means, get the PTR installed, copy a character over there and have a little bit of a play with this yourself. If you enjoyed the video today, make sure to give the video a like, leave your comments down below, and of course, subscribe if you're new around here. But I've been Manthieus, and I'll see you all next time, boys and girls. Peace!